The American dream of effortless, luxury living is starting to crack. And in 2025, the fractures aren't subtle anymore. For years, high-end real estate was marketed as the safest flex on earth. They're not making any more land. The wealthy will always pay for quality. Luxury never crashes. That narrative is dead. Right now, across America, you've got glass towers glowing empty at night, waterfront mansions quietly bleeding their owners dry, and price-reduced banners hanging on homes that used to start bidding wars. We're not talking about starter homes in the suburbs. We're talking about the tier of property that was supposed to be untouchable. Infinity pools, glass elevators, 6-car garages, marble that flew in on private jets. Those homes have become some of the most dangerous assets in the country. This isn't a minor slowdown. This is a full-on luxury correction hitting multiple markets at once, fueled by a brutal combo of high interest rates, exploding insurance costs, oversupply, retreating investors, and a shrinking pool of true cash buyers. Nationally, luxury sales are at their weakest level in over a decade, with inventory quietly stacking up at the top of the market. So tonight, we're breaking down the 10 U.S. cities where luxury home values are getting hit the hardest right now. And more importantly, why it's happening. Because if the top of the market is cracking like this, you need to ask yourself one question. Who's next? Stay with this until the end, because the number one city on this list is watching wealth evaporate at a speed we haven't seen since the fallout of 2008. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because this luxury crash isn't the end of the story. It's the first domino in a much bigger housing unraveling. Number 10, Dallas, Texas, from boom story to balance sheet problem. For years, Dallas was the poster child of the Texas boom. Places like Highland Park, Preston Hollow, and Turtle Creek became magnets for high earners fleeing coastal taxes. Luxury homes in the $2-5 million range moved so fast they barely had time for professional photos. That era is over. At the peak around 2022, the top 10% of the Dallas housing market, its luxury tier, pushed well past the $1.3 million mark. Today, those same homes are changing hands closer to $1.05 million. You're looking at roughly a 20% hit to values in just a few years, with bigger cuts on anything above $3 million. The core problem? Dallas did what boomtowns always do. It overbuilt. Developers carpet-bombed the metro with McMansions and luxury condos, assuming demand would never slow. Now there's nearly 10 months of supply sitting above the 1 million mark, double what a healthy market can comfortably absorb. Listings that used to vanish in a weekend are now aging out at 120 to 180 days. Then there's the carrying cost reality check. Dallas County property tax rates hover around 2.2%. On a $2 million home, that's roughly $45,000 a year in taxes before you even talk about upkeep. Now add in Texas-sized insurance premiums, north of $12,000 annually on many high-end homes. Thanks to hail, storms, and rising replacement costs, luxury rentals aren't plugging the gap. Investors who thought they could rent high-end homes for $6,000 a month and call it cash flow are getting hammered when the true monthly nut is closer to $10,000. The math simply doesn't work. The result? Quiet panic. Dallas and Tarrant counties are seeing a noticeable uptick in high-end foreclosure filings, something that was almost unheard of here in the last cycle. Dallas still looks rich from the outside, but for a growing number of owners, the numbers under the hood are starting to look like a mistake. Number 9, Miami, Florida, paradise with a price tag. That broke Miami has always sold itself as fantasy. Penthouses over Biscayne Bay, waterfront estates in Coral Gables, glass towers on Brickell Avenue where the ocean meets the skyline. Between 2020 and 2022, it became the pandemic capital of luxury FOMO. New Yorkers fleeing taxes, Californians chasing sun and freedom, and wealthy buyers from Brazil, Argentina, and Russia poured in. Values went vertical. A condo that sold for $1.5 million in 2019 flipped for $2.4 million in 2022. Waterfront mansions doubled in under 5 years. Then the tide went out. By 2025, luxury condo prices in Miami are down roughly 22% from peak, with 2 million units now begging for offers at $1.55 million. Waterfront homes once listed at $5 million are chopping $1 million off the ask and still sitting. This isn't just a vibe shift. Miami has now been flagged as one of the most vulnerable housing bubbles in the world, with analysts pointing directly at unsustainable home prices, dwindling demand, and brutally higher ownership costs, especially insurance and HOA fees. The pressure points: over 20,000 new luxury condo units hit the Miami metro between 2018 and 2024. There simply aren't enough qualified buyers left. Florida's insurance crisis is now legendary. Premiums that were $15,000 on a waterfront property are now comfortably over $40,000 in many cases. HOA fees in high-end towers have doubled in a few years. Paying $2,500 to $2,500 plus per month in fees alone is normal in some buildings. Airbnb investors, once printing money in Miami, are bleeding. Occupancy has dropped, nightly rates are down, and regulation plus oversupply have destroyed the easy profit era. You walk along Brickell at night now and you'll see it. Entire stacks of dark units in buildings that were supposed to be sold out. Miami's luxury dream didn't just cool, it ran into something men understand very well: math. Number 8, Scottsdale, Arizona, desert oasis, deserted listings. Scottsdale built its brand on desert luxury, gated golf communities, spa resort homes, and desert estates designed to impress anyone. Stepping off a private jet. In 2022, the median luxury home here peaked around $1.2 million. By mid-2025, that slipped closer to $900,000 to $75,000, a roughly 19% retreat. At the $3 million and up level, price cuts of $500,000 or more are becoming routine. Once again, the script is familiar. Developers chased the pandemic gold rush with aggressive luxury construction between 2018 and 2022. High-end inventory has piled up to more than 9 months of supply, while days on market have stretched from under 30 to 100 plus. Scottsdale sold itself as the cheaper, more tax-friendly alternative to California. That's still technically true, but the total cost picture is changing. Insurance premiums in the region have climbed sharply as wildfire, extreme heat, and flash flood concerns creep into underwriting models. Policies that were $3,000 a year are now closer to $7,500 or more on high-end homes. Mortgage rates above 7% mean a $1.5 million purchase doesn't feel comfortable anymore. It feels like a second full-time job. Vacation rentals, once the ace up every investor's sleeve, are no longer a guaranteed exit. Oversupply of high-end short-term rentals has pushed occupancy under 50% in many parts of the market, with nightly rates sliding. In the higher reaches of North Scottsdale, overextended buyers who stretched into $2 million desert estates are now facing the reality that the forever up era is over. The desert doesn't care about your projections. Number 7, Los Angeles, California, when the script flips. Los Angeles was luxury real estate's main character for decades. Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Malibu. These weren't just neighborhoods, they were brand statements. The idea that LA luxury could lose value in any serious way sounded like delusion. Not anymore. Median luxury prices in LA County peaked around $3.2 million in 2021. By 2025, that number has retreated toward $2.6 million, roughly a 20% drawdown. In the ultra-luxury segment, $10 million and up, owners are chopping $2 to $4 million off-list prices just to trigger a conversation. Why is LA stumbling? Years of speculative building created a pipeline of glass moderns and hillside mansions far beyond organic demand. High taxes and a rising cost of living have driven out a chunk of the high net worth base. Insurance in wildfire-prone zones like Malibu is now aggressively expensive, 6 figures annually for some large estates. The entertainment industry has been hit by strikes, streaming disruption, and job cuts, shrinking the pool of buyers who casually drop $15 million on a view. Short-term rentals, once a hedge for luxury owners, are under pressure from local regulation and oversupply. High-end rents have flattened. Investors relying on Airbnb arbitrage have discovered that LA's endless demand was a myth built on cheap money. Today, you can drive through neighborhoods that were once symbols of invincibility and see it. Homes that should have sold in a month sitting with repeated price cuts. In pockets of Beverly Hills, Hollywood Hills, and Calabasas, distressed sales are no longer unthinkable. They're just uncomfortable. For the first time in a generation, LA is learning a hard lesson. A great view doesn't pay the carrying costs. Number 6. San Francisco, California, tech city, luxury fallout. San Francisco used to be the crown jewel of tech money, where IPO cash instantly transformed into Pacific Heights mansions and trophy condos with bay views. That era feels distant. The city's luxury median peaked around $3.5 million in 2020. By 2025, it's hovering closer to $2.7 to $2.8 million, a 20% play drop, with downtown luxury condos down closer to 30% from peak in some buildings. The hits came from multiple directions at once. Tech layoffs and hiring freezes hammered the city's high-income buyer pool. Remote work rewired demand. The "you must live near the office" premium disappeared. Public order issues and quality of life concerns started to matter more than rooftop decks. Property taxes and earthquake insurance on a $3 or $4 million home are not trivial line items. $35,000 plus a year in taxes and 5 figures for insurance are common. Luxury condos that once sold above Aspen days now sit for 200 days or more. Developers have been quietly offering everything from free HOA for a year to luxury upgrades and even bonus gifts just to move units. Even high-end rentals aren't bailing investors out. Luxury rent demand has softened, and rent cuts have returned to a market that not long ago felt like a one-way escalator up. San Francisco spent a decade as the symbol of untouchable tech wealth. Now it's the case study in what happens when a luxury market leans too heavily on one industry, and that industry slams on the brakes. Number 5. Aspen, Colorado. When even billionaires pause. Aspen used to be the place where the rules did not apply. Hedge fund money, old money, new crypto money, every type of capital converged on those mountains. Ski chalets traded hands for $10-20 million like it was normal. Many owners barely spent a few weeks a year there. By 2025, even Aspen has a problem. Luxury values are off roughly 15 to 20% from their 2022 peak. A $12 million chalet that felt cheap to a fund manager at the top of the market is now quietly being listed at $9.5 million. High-end condos that went for $4 million now struggle at $3.2 million. The buyer pool hasn't disappeared, but it has thinned and changed. Rising global rates have ended the era of free money, forcing even the ultra-wealthy to think twice about tying 8 figures into a weekend house. Property taxes, specialty insurance for wildfire and mountain risk, and HOA fees in exclusive communities add hundreds of thousands a year to carrying costs on top-tier properties. Local regulations and shifting attitudes towards short-term rentals have hit Airbnb and VRBO-based investment models hard. Aspen's market isn't flooded with foreclosures, but they're not unheard of anymore. Owners who levered into can't-lose luxury ski properties are discovering that in the wrong macro environment, can't lose is just marketing copy. Aspen's lesson is critical. If it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. Number 4, the Hamptons, New York, summer playground, winter reality. For decades, the Hamptons embodied the East Coast luxury myth. Endless demand from Manhattan's elite, limited supply, and ever-climbing prices. From 2020 through 2022, that myth went into overdrive. Pandemic-era buyers sprinted to the East End, bidding up anything with a pool and a hint of privacy. Builders responded with wave after wave of new luxury construction. By 2021, median luxury prices in the Hamptons peaked around $3.2 million. Now they're closer to $2.6 million, and some beachfront estates that once asked $20 million are cutting $3-5 million off their sticker prices just to stay in the conversation. The problem here is simple but severe. Inventory in the high-end segment has ballooned to roughly a year's supply in some parts of the Hamptons. Properties that once sold ahead of summer now sit through entire seasons, unsold after 180-plus days. Carrying costs on an $8 million Hamptons estate are brutal. 6-figure property tax bills, 50,000 plus insurance in storm-exposed zones, and hundreds of thousands a year in staff, landscapers, pool maintenance, and security. Investors who relied on peak season rentals to justify ownership now face a different reality. Weekly rates are down, the market is oversaturated, and Wall Street bonuses aren't what they were a decade ago. The truly wealthy can still hold. But not everyone in the Hamptons is truly wealthy. A surprising number of people here were leveraged, timing sideways and assuming it always goes up. In 2025, that assumption is being priced out of the market. Number 3, Las Vegas, Nevada, the high roller hangover. Vegas has always been about spectacle. The Strip, neon, penthouses with panoramic views, desert mansions that look like movie sets. Luxury real estate rode that image hard. By 2022, median luxury prices in Vegas cracked the $1.1 million mark. By 2025, they've slid back to around $880,000, a roughly 20% decline. In the $2 million and up category, you're seeing $400,000, $600,000 price cuts that still don't guarantee a sale. Why? Because Vegas overplayed its hand. Developers overbuilt luxury homes and high-rise condos during the pandemic boom, convinced the party would never stop. Rising rates crushed the cheap leverage model that powered much of that demand. Property taxes plus insurance for desert flooding and fire risk are now pushing annual carrying costs well beyond what many second home owners expected. The investor side looks even worse. Short-term rental supply exploded during the Airbnb gold rush. Now bookings are down, nightly, rates are under pressure, and many units sit empty. The math that looked incredible in a spreadsheet at 3% interest looks ugly at 7%. In upscale communities like Summerlin and Henderson, you're starting to see stress. Owners who bought at the top with aggressive financing are facing a market that is not on their side anymore. Vegas is still selling a dream, but for more and more luxury owners, that dream now ends with a spreadsheet in red. Number 2, San Diego, California, quiet luxury, loud correction. San Diego always marketed itself as LA's calmer, more livable cousin. La Jolla, Del Mar, Rancho Santa Fe. If LA was flash, San Diego was the quiet money alternative. From 2019 to 2021, the luxury market here went vertical. Median luxury prices peaked around $2.4 million. By 2025, that number is closer to $1.9, $2.0 million, or nearly a 20% step down. At the ultra-luxury level, 8 million plus homes are being sliced by 1.52 million in price reductions. Behind the picture-perfect coastline, the math is unforgiving. Property taxes on a $5 million estate easily top $50,000 a year. Insurance in Southern California, especially in areas exposed to wildfire and coastal risk, has climbed aggressively, adding tens of thousands a year to ownership costs. Wikipedia mortgage rates north of 7% mean a monthly payment that might have been $12,000 in 2021 is now pushing $18,000 or more in 2025. Inventory has quietly ballooned. Listings that used to move in under 45 days are now sitting for 150 days or longer. Sellers are resorting to incentives, price cuts, concessions, even luxury cars thrown into deals, and still getting silence. High-end vacation rentals, once the safety valve, are softening. Occupancy is under pressure, nightly rates are down, and regulations are tightening. Families who stretched into 3 to 5 million homes under the assumption of endless appreciation are discovering that San Diego's safe luxury aura doesn't protect you from basic financial reality. Number 1, New York City, New York, the Empire State of Denial. New York City has always been the final boss of luxury real estate. Penthouses over Central Park, townhouses on the Upper East Side, glass towers downtown that were designed more for wealth storage than human living. For years, the assumption was simple. If you buy ultra-luxury in Manhattan, you can't lose, especially over a decade-long horizon. That assumption is being rewritten in real time. Median luxury prices in NYC peaked near $4.5 million around 2020. By 2025, they've slipped to about $3.6 million, a roughly 20% decline. The real pain is at the extreme top. Penthouses that once asked $50 million have chopped $10–15 million and are still sitting. The structural problems are brutal. A massive glut of billionaire condo towers hit the market over the last decade. The pool of people who can pay $20–50 million cash and want to live in Manhattan is not infinite. Property taxes on a $10 million apartment are easily $200,000 a year. HOA condo fees of $5,000+ a month are standard in top-tier buildings. Mortgage payments at today's rates on a $20 million unit are beyond what even many high earners are willing to stomach. On top of that, demand has changed. Wall Street bonuses have cooled compared to prior boom cycles. Remote and hybrid work have weakened the "you must live in Manhattan" narrative. A chunk of high net worth residents have left for lower tax states. The result? A stunning share of Manhattan condos have been selling at a loss. In the last year, about 1 in 3 condos resold for less than the prior purchase price, and more than half of units bought between 2016 and 2020 sold at a loss when resold. Even in the top-tier luxury space, about 20% of sales over $10 million are now taking a hit. The always-up myth has been exposed. Entire towers now function like wealth traps, high carrying costs, soft resale demand, and buyers far more disciplined than in the 2015-2019 era. When the city that symbolized invincible luxury starts bleeding wealth this openly, you are not looking at a blip. You're looking at a regime change. What this means, if you're a man watching this. This isn't just gossip about rich people's problems. This is a live lesson in how fast, safe assets can turn on you when cheap money disappears. Insurance and taxes spike oversupply meets shrinking demand. Narrative finally loses to numbers. For years, luxury real estate was sold as the masculine endgame. Work, grind, win, park your success in a physical asset with a view. But here's the harsh truth for men who care about money, strategy, and long-term positioning. Price is not the same as value. A $5 million house can be a better deal than a $2 million condo, or far worse, depending on carrying costs, location risk, and exit liquidity. Luxury can be the riskiest part of the market. When things turn, the top 10% of properties often have the thinnest buyer pool and the most brutal corrections. Cash flow beats ego. An asset that costs you 6 figures a year to hold while values drop is not a flex. It's a liability disguised as status. Macro always wins. You can be smart, but you can't out-negotiate interest rates, insurance trends, demographics, and oversupply forever. If the top cracks, the rest is not immune. Luxury is where stress shows up first, because it's where excess lives. When these markets are in visible pain, it's a warning sign, not an isolated event. From Dallas to New York, Miami to San Francisco, Vegas to the Hamptons, the message is the same. The myth that luxury real estate never loses has been shattered. This is bigger than 2008 in one key way. Back then, the narrative was that the crash was a middle-class mortgage problem. This time, the pain is hitting the top of the pyramid, and when that strata admits losses, you know the environment has fundamentally changed. If you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe. In the next episodes, we're going deeper into where the opportunities are, how to read the next phase of this market, and how to protect yourself when the safest bets start to fail. The luxury crash is not the end of the story. It's the opening chapter.